The American experiment was many things, but first and foremost, it was an attempt for the first time in human history to create a society based upon the rule of law. The Declaration of Independence lists in exhaustive and minute detail nearly 30 enumerated cases of lawlessness on the part of King George III. This nation showed the world that common people could not only rule themselves, they could do so without an aristocracy, and especially do so without an aristocracy that was, like King George, above the law. Hey, here's a law, U.S. Code Title 18, Part 1, Chapter 101, Section 2071, Paragraph A, quote, "Whoever willfully and unlawfully conceals, removes, mutilates, obliterates, or destroys, or attempts to do so, or, with intent to do so, takes and carries away any record, proceeding, map, book, paper, document, or other thing filed or deposited with any clerk or officer of any court of the United States, or in any public office, or with any judicial or public officer of the United States, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 3 years, or both." And paragraph B says, "Whoever, having the custody of any such record, proceeding, map, book, document, paper, or other thing, willfully and unlawfully conceals, removes, mutilates, obliterates, falsifies, or destroys the same, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 3 years, or both, and shall forfeit his office and be disqualified from holding any office under the United States." Hillary Rodham Clinton decided to conduct for 4 years the office of Secretary of State using her own private email server. Now, because these emails were not transacted and recorded through the official State Department servers, Mrs. Clinton willfully concealed and removed these critical documents from the records and archives of the United States government. You can further argue that by electing not to have these records placed onto secure government servers, which, not only being secure, are routinely backed up and, most importantly, subject to Freedom of Information Act requests, that she has, by any reasonable interpretation, mutilated, obliterated, and destroyed these essential records, which belong not to Hillary Rodham Clinton, but rather to the Secretary of State of the United States of America and her employers, which would be the people of that nation. The penalty for this is a fine or up to 3 years imprisonment, or both. That's paragraph A of the law. By her own admission, transacting all of her State Department business through her private server means that by not turning the entire server over to the State Department, all of it, that's for us to decide what's important or incriminating, not her. She has, in fact, quote, "willfully and unlawfully concealed, removed, mutilated, obliterated, falsified, or destroyed the same," unquote. That, too, is punishable by fine, up to 3 years imprisonment, or both, and, parenthetically, forfeiture of office and disqualification from holding any office under the United States. That's the law. That's what the law says. This kind of lawlessness is endemic in this administration, but beyond the lawlessness is, of course, contempt. The contempt for the very idea that these Harvard and Yale Law School grads have to actually, obey the law. Those for little people. The contempt for the American people's right to know what their elected officials are actually doing. And beyond all of this, the towering, monumental, criminal arrogance of it, that the official business of the United States of America, the nation's diplomacy, strategy, its defense posture, privileged communications between our allies, and in point of fact, every particle of our nation's foreign policy was being discussed and archived in a single box in either Texas or Manhattan or wherever the hell it is. That this server's basic, routine Microsoft security updates, the kind of thing that you and I get pestered with every day, were not complied with, that the vital security interests are, in point of fact, the very lives of 320 million people, did not warrant the effort to even obtain a unique encryption certificate, but rather just use the same one issued to thousands, if not millions, of other users. All of this gets to the heart not only of who Hillary Clinton is and the contempt in which she holds the American people, it's much deeper than that. Because when the President of the United States of America gets an official notification from his Secretary of State from bestmattressdeals99 at yahoo.com or any email that does not end in .gov, then he too is complicit in this lawlessness, and for the same reason. Barack Obama's press secretary, Josh Earnest, admitted that the president did in fact receive emails from his Secretary of State from such an address, and he went on to say this.
He was not aware of the details of how that email address and that server had been set up, or how Secretary Clinton and her team were planning to comply with the Federal Records Act.
Feel better now? The President of the United States, receiving emails from an illegal, not to mention non-secure source, did not know or care or take any action whatsoever to ensure that she complied with the federal law that she was in violation of, or give even passing interest to the massive security threat that this violation entailed. And neither did any of the people we pay to be responsible for the security of the communications of those at the uppermost level of power of the most powerful nation in the history of the world. This country was founded specifically to be rid of the incompetence, the reckless arrogance, and the casual stupidity of kings and queens who acted as though they were above the law. And if we let these crimes go unpunished, it will die of that same parasitical disease, and sooner rather than later. Please subscribe to our